Hello and welcome. Today we're going to tackle one of the most pressing conversations in education right now, how to handle the explosion of AI. You see, unlike so many other tech shifts, this one isn't being rolled out from the top down. It's happening from the bottom up, led by students, and it's creating this enormous policy vacuum that's putting our entire education system in a state of conflict. Right, let's just start with a number, and it's a pretty stark one. Only 10%. That's the percentage of North American school boards that actually have a formal AI policy. Now, this isn't just a small gap in the paperwork. This is a massive governance vacuum. It means students, teachers, and administrators are all trying to navigate a technological revolution completely in the dark. And this quote, well, it just perfectly captures the heart of the problem, doesn't it? This isn't really about the technology itself. It's about fairness, it's about consistency, and it's about ethics. To really get our heads around this, we need to look at it from the three key perspectives caught right in the middle of it all. So let's begin with the students. They're on the front lines, they're using these tools every single day, but they're doing it in a world with no clear rules, which, as you can imagine, is creating a huge amount of confusion and inconsistency for them. Just try to imagine a student's daily reality for a moment. They're in an English class, and using AI to help with an essay could get them accused of cheating. But then, an hour later, they walk into their computer science class, and they're not just allowed to use that same tool, they're actively encouraged to. This kind of inconsistency is creating a brand new type of digital divide, not between who has access to tech, but who has access to clear guidance. So what do students actually want? You might be surprised. It turns out the vast majority of them are literally asking for guidance. They are wrestling with these really fundamental questions. When is it okay for me to use this? How am I supposed to cite it if I do? And I think most importantly, what are the skills that I as a person still need to have? They're not trying to break the rules. They're asking what the rules of the game are. And thankfully, some institutions are starting to provide those answers. We're seeing some fantastic pioneers here. Our MIT in Australia, for instance, has clear referencing guidelines. Oxford is focusing on transparency. Just tell us you've used it and it's not a problem. Harvard is all about student responsibility for the final output. And the Ottawa Catholic School Board is offering a brilliant model with guidance that changes as students get older. These are the people creating the maps that students so desperately need. Okay, so that's the students' view. But what about the teachers? They are caught in this incredibly difficult, almost impossible position. They're being asked to be both the police for a new technology and the champions of its integration, often with absolutely no support. And when you look at the data, one thing becomes incredibly clear. A staggering 78% of educators say they simply don't have the time or the bandwidth to deal with AI on top of everything else. And let's be clear, this isn't about a lack of will, it's a systemic lack of capacity. This isn't a problem that any individual teacher can solve on their own. And this gets to the crux of it, this dual mandate. On the one hand, teachers are meant to be detectives, sniffing out any unauthorized use of AI. And on the other hand, they're supposed to be innovators, seamlessly weaving AI into their lessons and their feedback. It's a completely contradictory and frankly an impossible ask without clear institutional backing. So what's a potential path forward? Well, one really interesting idea is something called a dual curriculum approach. This basically means giving teachers clear frameworks for two things. First, how to integrate AI, using it to help with lesson plans or admin. But second, and this is crucial, it's about creating an AI-resistant curriculum. This means designing assessments that truly test critical thinking and original problem solving, the exact skills that remain uniquely human. Right, so we've heard from the students and the teachers. Now let's zoom out to the people running the system, the administrators. School and district leaders are facing immense pressure, caught between legal risks, these big policy gaps, and just sheer logistical overload. They are trapped in what's being called a triple bind. First, you have legal uncertainty, where they have to make these high-stakes disciplinary decisions based on really vague, outdated rules. Then there's policy paralysis. They're stuck waiting for slow guidance from above, while the needs on the ground are urgent. And third, there's the massive logistical overload of training staff, updating infrastructure, and managing all this change. And this isn't just a theoretical problem. The consequences are very real. In 2024, a school in Massachusetts was sued by parents after their son was disciplined for using AI. And the reason? The school's own handbook was, and I'm quoting here, hopelessly vague about what was and wasn't allowed. This is the legal minefield administrators are walking through every day. And that ambiguity is just perfectly captured by this series of questions from legal expert Matthew Sag. He asks, is spell check AI? Is text prediction AI? A Google search? Grammarly? It's a brilliant question because it shows just how blurry the lines have become. Most of our academic integrity policies were written decades ago, leaving them completely open to challenge. And here is the real kicker, the great irony in all of this. AI tools could be an absolute game changer for administrators themselves. They could automate scheduling, streamline communications, and save thousands of hours. But they're blocked from using the solution because they haven't yet been able to solve the policy problem. So, where on earth do we go from here? Well, while the challenge is obviously significant, it also presents this profound opportunity. An opportunity to reframe how we think about policy, not as a restriction, but actually as a form of education. This brings us to this really powerful concept, policy as pedagogy. What this means is treating the whole process of creating AI rules not as a chore, but as a teaching moment. It's about engaging the entire school community, students, staff, parents, in these conversations. And in doing so, we can actively build the very skills that students need for the future: digital literacy, ethical reasoning, and critical thinking. Because let's be honest, just trying to ban these tools is a losing strategy. It's not practical to enforce, and more importantly, it does a huge disservice to our students. It fails to prepare them for a world where these tools are going to be everywhere. The goal has to be about enablement, not just restriction. So ultimately, it all comes down to this one critical question. The challenge of AI in education isn't really about controlling a piece of software. It's about us. It's about how we can create thoughtful, flexible frameworks that empower our students, support our teachers, and guide our administrators to not just cope with the future, but to actively shape it.